The silver sands of Zyphera stretched endlessly beneath a crimson sky, fractured by the jagged silhouettes of ancient spires. The outpost's sensors had been silent for weeks, and the crew of the starship Aurelia had been dispatched to investigate the eerie quiet. Lieutenant Cale Marston, the ship's operations officer, felt the familiar tug of apprehension in his chest as the shuttle descended. Something about Zyphera was wrong. Their mission commander, Captain Leora Vance, addressed the team with her usual calm authority. "Remember, we don't know what we'll find. Maintain protocol and stay alert." Her eyes, though, betrayed a flicker of unease. She knew the reports. The intercepted signals had been strange, almost hypnotic. As the hatch opened, a gust of red-tinted wind swept through the shuttle, carrying a scent like ozone mixed with scorched metal. The landscape was barren, but towering above it all was a figure, an alien woman, clad in reflective armor that seemed to shimmer with a life of its own. She stood motionless atop the highest spire, her gaze locking onto Cale the moment he stepped outside. "She demands obedience," whispered Dr. Ellera Singh, the ship's xenobiologist. Her voice trembled despite her attempts to remain professional. That's what the reports meant. Cale felt a cold weight settle over him as the alien woman's eyes, black as void yet glimmering with inner fire, swept across the crew. She raised her hand, and in that instant, every mind aboard the shuttle seemed to falter. Commands felt wrong, movements sluggish, thoughts clouded. Captain Vance barked orders, but even her voice sounded distant, muffled by an invisible barrier. "Cale, stand firm." He struggled against the compulsion, fighting the urge to kneel, to submit. But it was futile. Her power was absolute. One by one, the crew fell silent, their wills bending toward her command. The alien woman's lips curved into a cold, satisfied smile. "Your fates are no longer your own," she intoned in a voice that resonated directly in their minds. "Obey, or the sands will consume you." The words were not a threat. They were a decree. And the crew obeyed. For hours, perhaps days, time seemed to warp under her influence. Cale and his team followed her silent guidance. They repaired ancient machines buried in the sands, rearranged crystalline structures whose purpose remained a mystery, and navigated labyrinthine tunnels beneath the spires. Every action reinforced her dominion, every moment under her gaze etching obedience deeper into their psyches. Yet Cale could feel a spark within himself, a stubborn ember resisting the oppressive will. He realized that while she commanded actions, she did not control intent. If he could understand her purpose, perhaps he could find a way to break the spell. One night, beneath a canopy of iridescent auroras that danced across Zyphera's sky, Cale ventured beyond the crew's encampment. The alien woman stood alone, gazing at the horizon where twin suns met the jagged horizon. "Why?" Cale asked, forcing the word past the compulsion that gripped his throat. She turned slowly, her expression unreadable. "Why?" she echoed, almost amused. "Because order is chaos made visible. Because only through obedience can survival persist. Your kind is too fractured, too weak." Yet her gaze sharpened, studying him intently. "There is potential." Cale's heart pounded. "Potential for what?" "To change fate," she replied cryptically. "But only if one can endure the crucible of will." It was then Cale understood. Her power was not merely control. It was a test, a trial of resolve. And the fate she had imposed was not permanent. It was a mirror, reflecting the weakness and strength of those who stood before her. Determined, Cale returned to the crew. He shared his realization, guiding them to resist not through force, but through unity. Slowly, deliberately, they began to act in concert, defying her commands while appearing to obey. It was a delicate dance, a psychological tug-of-war. The alien woman noticed. Her eyes narrowed, her power intensifying as if sensing the defiance. The sands around the spires rose in violent storms, lightning arcing unnaturally across the sky. Yet the crew held firm, their combined will pushing against the current she had imposed. Then, in a moment that felt suspended in eternity, something shifted. The alien's expression faltered, a flicker of surprise, almost admiration. The red-tinted wind stilled. The spires seemed to hum in acknowledgement. She lowered her hand. "You have endured," she said softly, her voice no longer a command but a statement of recognition. "Your fates are no longer bound by my will." With that, the compulsion lifted. The crew collapsed to the sands, exhausted but free. Kale looked up at the alien woman. She stood atop the spire, the crimson sky behind her, her eyes reflecting both the suns above and the trials below. "You chose not just obedience, but understanding," she said. "That is why your fate has shifted. The crucible is not punishment. It is opportunity." Kale felt a swell of relief, tempered by awe. "Opportunity for what?" "For choice," she replied. And then, in a motion that was almost imperceptible, she vanished, leaving only a faint shimmer where her presence had been. In the aftermath, the crew explored the spires, discovering the remnants of a civilization that had faced extinction yet thrived through discipline and unity. The machines they had repaired began to hum with life, the tunnels illuminated by energy that responded to thought and intention. Zyphera was no longer a desolate wasteland. It had become a living testament to the lesson they had learned, that fate could be influenced, reshaped, and reclaimed through courage, unity, and understanding. As the Aurelia departed, Kale gazed back at the horizon. The alien woman's challenge had ended, but its impact would resonate forever. They had faced domination, endured the crucible, and emerged not as subjects of fate, but as architects of their own destiny. And somewhere, in the shimmer of the spires, Kale thought he saw her smile once more, a silent acknowledgement that the trial had not been for her amusement, but for the potential of those who dared to defy the inevitable. Word count, 970. If you want, I can also create a full YouTube SEO package for the story, including a 10-plus minute-friendly description with timestamps, 30 hashtags, 30 keywords, why watch this, what you'll learn, and video tags, all optimized for sci-fi storytelling. Do you want me to do that next? The alien woman's presence lingered in the shimmering air, a silent testament to the trial they had endured. The crew, weary yet unbroken, looked at one another with a newfound clarity. No longer merely survivors of Zyphera's sands, they were now architects of their own destinies. Kale stepped to the edge of the spire, feeling the wind carry away the last remnants of her command. He realized that true obedience was never about submission. It was about understanding, resilience, and choice. The lesson had been harsh, but it had forged a strength none of them had known they possessed. As the Aurelia lifted off, Zyphera's crimson skies seemed less threatening and more alive, the spires gleaming like monuments to the balance between power and free will. In the distance, Kale thought he saw a faint silhouette of the alien woman, her gaze acknowledging their triumph without a word. "Fate is no longer a chain," Kale whispered, a small smile forming. "It's a path we choose." And with that, the crew looked forward to the stars, carrying with them the knowledge that even in the shadow of absolute power, courage and unity could shift the course of destiny. If you want, I can also tighten the ending further to give it a more suspenseful cliffhanger or heroic resolution, depending on the vibe you want for your video. Do you want it to feel epic and triumphant or mysterious and lingering?